What's going on, guys? We're going to get into the podcast in a minute. I'm just going to give people some time to tune in. But in the meantime, tell me how your day's going. Tell me how your week's going. Tell me how training's going. If you got fights coming up, any of that good stuff, and just how life's going, all of that good stuff. But guys, today we're talking about training like Mike Tyson did it. Now, it's not going to be specifically about Mike Tyson, but more so the concept that what I see a lot of athletes do is I see a lot of athletes try to mimic how they train based off of how, the great ones in the past used to train. And we're going to talk about that idea, talk about what you're doing, and talk about how you can make that better. I see someone commenting, I'm fighting today. What should I be doing right now? What you should be doing right now is relaxing and letting yourself just get ready for the fight. Keep the breath calm, keep the body calm, keep the mind calm, get yourself ready to perform. All the work is done. There's nothing that you can go do today, like conditioning wise or anything like that, that's going to impact your fight. Keep yourself calm, warm up like you would for a sparring session, and then go freaking kill it. Good luck. But guys, we're going to get straight into it. We're talking about training like Mike Tyson did it. We're going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I am your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about training how Mike Tyson did it. Now, I'm going to start this podcast off right away by saying I am not breaking down Mike Tyson's training methods in this podcast. I am not disrespecting Mike Tyson's training methods in this podcast. I am not going into any kind of detail like that. You can honestly take literally any GOAT name from the past and interchange that with his name in the title. But the idea here, guys, is that we're going to talk about trying to model your training based off of what past athletes have done. And we're going to talk about the problem with that idea. So I have a post that is blowing up a little bit on YouTube Shorts right now. If you don't follow me there, Coach Dusseault Conditioning, go check it out. But I have a post that's blowing up on YouTube Shorts right now where basically I make the comparison of trying to model your training after someone like Mike Tyson to picking a horse and buggy over a Lamborghini. Now, on the surface, I know what you're thinking. Are you saying that Mike Tyson was shitty? No. Mike Tyson is absolutely one of the greatest boxers of all time. He is an absolute legend, and I have nothing but respect for the man, which is exactly what I say in that post. But before he fought Roy Jones, his previous last fight was in 2005. So if you're spending your time trying to model your training after a physical specimen that was fighting in the early 2000s, you're 20 years behind the time. And that's not an insult at Mike. That's just the timeline that he was fighting in. And for anybody listening, I created this reel that I posted there before he was announced to fight Jake Paul. So now his next fight is going to be in 2024, which is insane. But the idea of this post was, if you are spending your time trying to model your training after what somebody was doing 20 years ago, you are behind the times. Training methods evolve, and you need to evolve as well. Now, the couple of problems with trying to model your training after someone like Mike Tyson, as an example, is number one, that dude is a physical specimen. Like, you just look at him. He was jacked when he was like 10 years old, which is crazy. So if you try to do what he does, it's not going to work the same way for you that it did for him, because plain and simple, guys, I hate to be the one to break it to you, you're not Mike fucking Tyson. So stop trying to train like him. And then number two, the strength and conditioning work that someone does doesn't always reflect their actual ability in the ring. If you have an extremely talented physical specimen natural athlete and they're doing shitty strength and conditioning, they're probably still going to be quite good. But that doesn't mean that the strength and conditioning methods that they use, or the running 10 miles a day method that they use, is the right method for everybody. That just means they're a physical specimen, they're a freak athlete, and they're very good at their sport. And then the other thing we've got to really understand is that, guys, we don't know exactly how Mike Tyson trained in the early 2000s or in the 1990s. You can look at videos and you can look at programs that say Mike Tyson boxing program, but that doesn't mean that that's actually exactly what he was doing, right? Because a lot of people love to slap a label on a program and be like, this is the Mike Tyson boxing program. But it's like, is it Mike Tyson saying, hey, this is exactly how I prepared for all my fights? Probably not. So you're guessing as to what you are actually trying to model your training behind, and you're likely missing huge pieces of it, right? So you might see what he's doing in terms of like the pad work or something like that, but he might not be showing the recovery work that he's doing. You know, you might see him doing some, heavy squats or something like that, but he might not show that he's also doing a bunch of accessory work. Like if you're looking at it from the outside, you don't know what the methods are. So not only are you trying to model your training after something that was relevant 20 years ago, you're also trying to model it off of not that much information, right? So the main point of that post and the main point that I'm trying to get across here is that if you want to succeed in the sport, I'm not saying don't follow the legends of the game. Of course, do. But also understand that your goal should not be to train like them. Your goal should not be to jump on the Mike Tyson boxing program or the Floyd Mayweather boxing program, because they are not good at boxing because they followed this specific program. They're good at boxing because they have their specific DNA, genetics, etc., and their work ethic and all of the stuff they do. You get what I'm saying? But if you're starting later, if you're a different human being, you're built a different way, whatever else it might be, you're going to need different things. And the final point, I spoke to this a little bit as well, but the final point is training methods evolve. So if you are looking back and you're like, well, when Mike Tyson was training for his fights in the 90s, this is what he was doing. And then you're like, well, that's what I need to do too. You're trying to model yourself after something that was working 30 years ago or 20 plus years ago. But instead, if you take, this is what he was doing, this is how we've advanced, in the world of sports science, this is the things we've learned since, this is other information from other places, we can combine all of that and create a better plan because we've advanced, we've learned things, we understand there are some things that Mike Tyson was doing that you shouldn't do anymore. There are some things that Floyd Mayweather was doing that you shouldn't do anymore. It doesn't mean that they weren't great athletes. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot that you can take away from them. It just means that times advance. And as times advance, training methods advance. As training methods advance, you need to advance. So that's it. That's all. It is a short and sweet one today. The really big takeaway I want you guys to have from this is, number one, training methods evolve. So stop trying to model yourself after what people were doing 20, 30 years ago, even if it's what the best in the world were doing at that time. Number two, just because somebody 20, 30 years ago, or just because someone great is doing it, it doesn't mean that it's a great method, right? Because it's easy to sit here and say, well, this is how this person trains, so obviously it's the right way. But no, that's just how that person trains. Not every single thing that every person is doing is the right way for you to do it too. One of my favorite examples of that is John Jones openly admitted to getting blackout drunk and doing cocaine the week before some of his biggest fights in his career. So if you want to be a good MMA fighter, probably not a good idea for you to go get blackout drunk and do coke a week before your fights, even though that's what somebody who is one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time has openly come out and said that they did. Right? And I'm not trying to attack John Jones. It's just an easy example of what I'm talking about here. But the goal is, guys, just understand that just because someone great is doing it, it doesn't mean that it is the best method. It doesn't mean it is the proper method. It doesn't mean that it is necessarily what you need to do as well. So yes, you can take good things from the legends of the industry. You can take good things from, the Mike Tysons, the Floyd Mayweathers, whoever else in the world. But you also need to understand that we continue to evolve. We continue to improve. We continue to learn more. And as we learn more, the training methods develop. And so instead, the way that you should really be looking is you should be looking at the information and asking yourself, does this make sense? Right? So if you watch a Mike Tyson workout and you're like, man, this looks insane, I don't understand anything he's doing, don't just be like, well, Mike Tyson does it, so I have to do it. It's like, ask yourself, does this make sense? Where does this come from? Who's telling him to do this? Why is he doing this? What is he working on? Is this something that would make sense for me? Maybe I can ask a teammate if that's something they would do. Like, there's more research to be done than just this guy does it, so I need to do it too. And then finally, continue to grow and continue to stay open-minded. One of the worst mistakes I see a lot of athletes make is they say, well, my boxing coach said I need to run 5 miles a day, so I need to run 5 miles a day. Ask yourself why. Why is your boxing coach telling you this? What is it based off of? And the answer, because cardio, is not a good answer. So ask yourself why you're doing the things you're doing. Ask yourself why you're learning the things you're learning. Ask yourself, is it actually getting you the result you want? Because, guys, it would be shocking to you the amount of DMs that I get that say, my boxing coach says run 5 miles a day. I run 5 miles every single day, but my gas tank in my fights is still bad. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's because that's not an effective method. But people just look at it and they're like, well, my coach said to do it, so I have to do it. But it's okay for you to learn on your own as well. It's okay for you to dig deeper and you to start asking questions and start trying to add to those training methods using good information. So, guys, now that is it. That is all. I went on a little bit of a rant there, but as always, I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope you got some good value from that. If you did, I would love to know what it is. Make sure to drop me a message across any of my social media platforms. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. It's Thursday today, or whatever day you're watching this. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next one.